this is the path. I mean, this is exactly how I always conceived of my path, you know? It was like I was starting on one side, something I called false path, right? Misidentifications, like who was I really? You know, growing up in this crazy house and like kind of like taking on the identifications of my environment. So, you know, Jewish, coming from nothing, poverty-ridden, trauma environment. So I felt like, you know, I could just stay in that. I could become a criminal trial lawyer, which was a huge leap from where we started in the family, right? But then I heard that call, that little Missy, I called it, that little part of me that seemed to be pulling me towards this hazy other path. And it was like she was pulling me across the bridge. It wasn't as clarified as this bridge. It wasn't as sturdy as this bridge. And to me, this is the soul-shaping birth canal, you know? It's like you start on one end and you go over it. It's a very narrow canal in this culture. When it's like the sacred battleground. When you want to get to an authentic sense of your own life, like really identify and excavate what your true path is, right? Like really, why are you here? What are your soul scriptures, right? You go to the library of you pull the scriptures off the inner shelf, you know, and you see what is the next step? What are my callings? What lessons am I here to learn to advance my soul, to shape my soul to the next stage and its movement towards wholeness, all that. And then you start to move across the bridge. You hear the call, the distant flute is on the other side of the bridge. And you start very quietly at some points, just kind of going across it. And it's not sturdy like this. It's not sturdy to the other side. It's just perilous. It's like there's little holes in the wood and the bridge starts to shake, you know? And all you're trying to do is move towards a more authentic experience in your life, right? To get to the other end and really know and look back and understand that all of that little patchwork, all the busted up wood, you know, like I say, the ladder to heaven is made of broken rungs. It really is like that. Like it's like you just keep going through this minefield of experience, difficult, challenging experiences, and hope to push your way through to the other side where you feel sturdy, you feel solid and grounded, your feet are on the ground, and you really, really know in a tangible way, not a hyped up way, but a real way why you're here. You know, like what exactly were you to become? Like, you know, my first push was the push to Eddie Greenspan in criminal law. It was like, you have got to work with Eddie. And then I did work with Eddie, and then little Missy pulled me towards something else. And so 15 or 20 years later, I reached closer to the other side of the bridge, and I feel like comfortable in my soul skin that I was supposed to write Soul Shaping. And then I look back and there were these glimmers of knowing all through my life of why that was a path I absolutely had to walk. And you just keep listening in. You just keep listening in. Listen for the cellular phone. Listen in. Do the work until you reach a sturdy sense of who you are on the other side of the path. Oh, got it. Cool. Cool. This is the path, you know, you don't just like walk straight across the bridge to true path in this like overstimulated culture where we don't even know why we're here. All we're thinking about is mostly survivalism and like how we get food on the table. This kind of idea of like trying to bridge to something more authentic inside of us feels for many of us very nuanced and almost like, you know, an impossible thing to even think about in our overstimulated and often fearful daily life. So as much as I like to say that it's a really simple walk, you just ask the universe for what you want, you get it, you know, that's not been my experience. My experience is you come across the bridge and then like you got to go to the left because you got to step back, you know, because you fell back into a bad pattern, something you haven't worked out yet. You have to work out in order to move forward on the bridge. You know, where there's like a hole or that piece of wood is not solid and sturdy, so you're going to fall through it, so you kind of move to the left. I feel like it's a patchwork of imagination. That's the dance, right? It doesn't always make sense. You don't always really know that you're actually getting somewhere. You just have to be faith-driven and trust the little voice that knows inside of you, right? That's it, you know, and then you go back for a while because now you're like in your abandonment trigger and you haven't worked that out yet. If you work it out, you move forward, or you've gotten a bad relationship pattern and you're like, you you hear the truth ache that's saying, this isn't a fit for me, this isn't advancing me on my Soulular journey, but it's a pattern, you're hooked into it, you know? You have some lesson to learn there. Or you're just like in a habit of avoidance or whatever. And then you work that piece out, you spend time with that, and then you move a little bit forward. You know, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back is still progress, right? We have to be realistic. This journey, you know, growers are inchworms. This is a really slow-moving journey for a lot of us, and it's okay. It's supposed to be. And that's what it is, you know. And then maybe you go back, like literally, you go back 3 or 4 feet. You start behaving like you did 5 years earlier, and you can't believe that's happened, you know. You're like eating and eating and eating like you're used to, and you don't know why, and then you got to work that piece. You're not going to move spiritually if you don't do the emotional work. I call it sell your soul, C-E-L-L, your soul. The emotional body is the karmic field where your soul's lessons are harvested. Like that's how you grow. That is the karmic material. You can't call that misidentification. You don't want to get trapped in it or locked in it and stuck in it, but you want to work it. You want to really go all the way through those feelings. And that's how you grow in your spirituality. Like I developed the capacity to be in my sense of presence in the heart of my abandonment wound, whereas before I was completely controlled by it. And that work that I did in the heart of that wound is part of what advanced me spiritually. I became more capable of holding the space for reality without tripping out into my wound material. That is spiritual growth, right? They're directly linked. You don't grow spiritually if you don't work your material. That's the bridge. This is just keep going like that, you know? You don't have an expectation of constant joy or bliss or like any of that enlightenment trip. It's enrealment, you know? The farther I've crossed this bridge, the farther I've walked along the path towards true path, the more real I got. I felt pain, I felt sadness, I opened to my capacity to feel all emotions again. Whereas like in the early stages of the path, I kind of had this like idea or something that I was just going to become happy all the time. And it's like, you definitely get more comfortable in your soul skin as you cross this bridge, but it's like that's about just finding out why you're here. Like you get comfortable because you know why you're here, you're learning the lessons you need to learn, you're honoring your callings and gifts, you're gifting back to the universe, you know, all of that. But really, you're also just in all realms again, so now you're able to feel profound joy and peace in your skin, and at the same time, real sadness when your friend dies, and like a real grief period, and like, you know, you're not just happy all the time, you're just more authentic all the time, and that's why you feel comfortable when you go to bed at night. It's like you don't have the dark night of the soul because you know you're in it all, and you're here for the reasons you're supposed to be here, and you're not disconnected and alienated from your soul's journey. You are your soul scriptures. You are on the cellular phone all the time. You know what you're doing, you know, for the most part. And I mean that's where we gotta go, instead of in the direction of this kind of bliss out trip where you say you forgive people but you're filled with anger, where you say you're joyous but really on the deeper, more private level you're holding all this pain that you haven't worked through. The real journey is about getting more and more authentic all the time and feeling connected to everything, including things that are uncomfortable, just not being like held back by them, like working through them, but still feeling connected to it, you know?